One of the biggest trades of 2024 so far, SMCI, super microcomputer, rocketing higher. This thing has been in the news, in the headlines, everyone tweeting and talking about it. SMCI up over 200% off the breakout level in just a matter of weeks. And guess what? It was on my buy list before that 200% move. On today's show, I'm going to show you exactly how I found this thing before it put in that face melter of a move. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, everyone, welcome to Stock Charts in Focus. I'm your host for the show. My name is Grayson, author of Trading for Dummies and Director of Operations here at StockCharts.com. On today's show, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk about a real-world example, one of those high-flying names that has been in the news, everyone talking about it recently, SMCI. Taking advantage of AI, taking advantage of the craze in semiconductors going on right now. This thing, as you probably know, has been an absolute flyer. SMCI broke out recently from a consolidation phase and ran up over 200% in just a matter of weeks. This has been a face melter of a move, as we like to call it. Now, the interesting thing about it is that I knew about SMCI before it made that ripper of a move. Before that 200% gain, SMCI made it all the way to my buying list. I want to show you exactly how that happened on the show today. Realistically, it's just a couple of steps, 3 simple steps that you can implement in your own Stock Charts account to catch the next crazy move like SMCI. Couldn't be easier. Basically, what we're going to do is create a chart list. We're going to save a scan, and then we're going to schedule that scan to run and save those results every day automatically to your account. This is going to allow you to find those strongest stocks out there in the market when they're setting up, take advantage of them, and put them on your list for potential trade targets. So lots to cover on the show today. I say we jump over to the site and get it going. All right, guys, so before we really kick it off, I want to talk about kind of the background of the show today. We're going to take a look at SMCI and how this trade developed, and then we'll take you through those 3 simple steps that show you exactly how to find names like this before they kick off huge moves like that 200% run that we're going to talk about here in SMCI. So this is a chart in the past. This is SMCI earlier this year. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up is that this is exactly what I saw. This is exactly what I saved to my account, to my watch lists before SMCI printed that 200% move. I like to trade breakouts. I like to buy stocks that are breaking out of a consolidation range, printing new highs, finding their way higher, outperforming the market, doing things like that. And before SMCI made this crazy move that everyone's been talking about, it was exactly what I like to find. It's in a well-defined uptrend. It's been consolidating, and you can draw those horizontal lines across it, track those breakout levels, and place a trade at a specific price level. The great thing about drawing horizontal lines across your charts is that it makes it really easy to manage your risk. You know exactly when and why you're getting in. You can set your stops based on those horizontal levels. You can use tools like our inspect mode. You can turn this on with this little checkbox up here at the top and use this to actually measure down vertically and horizontally to measure exactly where you want your prices to be. So first and foremost, draw more horizontal lines on your chart. You can see actually with this chart, I've got them built into my chart style. I actually use the horizontal line indicator to mark exactly where I want my potential entries, stops, price targets, things like that. So in this case, this dashed green line that we've got on this chart, this was exactly what I was seeing before SMCI took off. I had this, again, on my buy list and marked in 353.29 as kind of my ideal entry point. You can see that's based on exactly where the stock had traded. So this was a name that came across my list, was setting up for a beautiful breakout, and that's exactly why it made its way onto my lists before it took off and made that 200% move. Now, if we look actually at what happened with this trade, you can see that I've got kind of the result in here. This is what happened. The stock broke out of that consolidation range, huge candle, ran higher, and this was about a 207% move all the way up to the highs in just a matter of weeks, really just less than a month, about 4 weeks of trading. SMCI printed that 200% gain. Now we've pulled back, but bounced off the 20-day, actually kind of consolidating again here. So still one that might be interesting to trade depending on your risk tolerance. But this is kind of what we're looking at, right? How do you catch these moves? How do you find SMCI before it makes that 200% move? That's exactly what happened with me, and that's exactly what I want to show you today. Now, full disclosure, I got to admit, I didn't take the trade. At the time, I had a full book. I had a full position list. And so while this was on my buy list, while SMCI did make it all the way to my buy list, I had a full position list and actually didn't have any more room in the portfolio to take on a new trade. I'm a very rules-based trader. And so when I've got a full book, I've got a full book. I can't break the rules and put on another trade just because it's setting up nicely. So in this case, unfortunately, didn't actually take the SMCI trade. But what's so interesting is that it found its way all the way to my buy list. And I want to show you exactly how that happened. So to do that, now that we got kind of the background out of the way, we're going to jump over to the Stock Charts dashboard. This is kind of that heart and soul of your account. And what I want to show you is we're going to do this in 3 simple steps. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to create a chart list. We're going to save a scan, and you actually don't even have to write that scan yourself. We'll show you how easy it is to just pick this scan up, save it to your account, and you'll be off to the races. Once we've created that, saved that scan, we're also going to schedule it. Now, when I say schedule it, we have a system on Stock Charts that allows you to take any of the technical scans from your account and schedule those to run automatically in the background at whatever time you want. This is really the driver of my system, my stock discovery system. I use scheduled scans to populate chart lists in my account that I can then go and review. I don't have to waste any time running scans, clicking buttons, doing any of that. All that work is done for me behind the scenes at Stock Charts, and all I have to do is jump into those chart lists and review those results. So I want to kind of show you what this looks like really quickly before we jump into those 3 simple steps. These lists in my account, all of these lists from Dow down to the bottom S&P 900 one, all of these chart lists are actually filled in every single day after the close automatically for me. You can see how many stocks are in these lists. Every day after the close, I've got a whole bunch of scans in my account that run for me automatically. Again, I don't have to do anything. And once those scans run, the results get saved to these lists in my account. So on any given day, if I ever want to see new stocks in the S&P 900, that's the 500 and the 400, making new all-time highs, I've got a scheduled scan running for me every single day that creates that list and saves it right here into my account. So this is kind of the driver. What we're going to do by creating and saving that scan and then scheduling it, in addition to creating that chart list in our account, what you're going to end up with is scheduled scan lists just like this that kind of get filled in as you go. Now, the way that this basically works is SMCI was a name that triggered one of those scans, got saved into one of these lists. I came in here to review it. In that case, it was an S&P 600 name that was making new 6-month highs. So when I was reviewing that list, it piqued my interest. I liked that setup as we kind of talked about earlier. I then moved it into my watch lists, which I actually have up at the top of my account. Moved it into my watch list, and then I kind of pushed it through. And eventually, it made it all the way to what I call my buying list, which is things that I'm much more serious about. So that's kind of the process, the high level. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's set up these simple steps for you so that you can repeat this exactly how I do it. I guess to show you this really quickly, when I jump into any of these lists, for instance, S&P 600 names making all-time highs, you can see that these lists actually get filled in for me automatically. And so every day, all I have to do to review those lists of stocks in the S&P 600 making all-time highs, I just have to jump into that chart list that I have in my account and start to sift through these names. So this makes it incredibly easy to find the strongest stocks out there in the market, as you are going to see. So let's jump back over to the dashboard. We're going to hit chart lists here, and we are going to jump down to chart list. We're going to look for this new button right up in the top right corner of that panel. So again, our 3 simple steps that we're going to run through. We're going to create a list. We're going to save a scan, and then we're going to schedule that scan to run for us automatically. So first up, let's create that list. Now you can do this in Sharp Charts, you can do this in ACP, either world, depending on sort of where you operate out of. Click New up in the top right corner there, and then type in a list name. So for us, let's say we want it to be scheduled scan results, okay? And we're gonna put a little star on it so it ends up kind of at the top of our count. We're gonna hit create new, and we're gonna leave that list blank. That is our first step. We're gonna create our scheduled scans list. Now you might want to name this, as you saw with me, you might want to name this something related to the scan that you're going to schedule. We're going to do this today with new high scans because that's exactly what I use to find SMCI. But if you've got other criteria that you want to use, you could create those scans, schedule them, and name these lists something kind of more appropriate for that scan that you're actually going to run. The most important thing, though, is that you're creating that list and leaving it empty. This is basically going to be a placeholder list that's going to get filled in with those scan results once we run them. So next up, we are going to jump over and create our scan. We're going to save a scan to our account. To do that, we're going to jump over to the Charts and Tools page and scroll down here to our sample scan library. Now, some of you watching might be familiar with scanning. You might be scan experts and you're saying, oh, okay, I'm going to write my own scans. I got scans that are already saved in my account. I'm going to use those. If you're not, though, if you're new to scanning and it's a little bit intimidating, this is the place to go. The sample scan library makes it incredibly easy to start scanning, really with no learning curve, no lift, no worries or anything like that. You don't have to actually write any scans yourself. You can jump over to this scheduled sample scan library, and you can actually run any of these scans on this page simply by hitting the run button. So if you wanted something like strong volume gainers or new 52-week lows, maybe you want stocks that are outperforming SPY over the last 3 months, any of those kinds of things, you can actually just hit run to get those results back from that scan. The other option that you have, though, is the edit button. This is going to be key for today. So if you're new to scanning and you don't want to start writing your own scans, don't worry, just jump over to this sample scan library and you're going to use this edit button to actually save some custom scans to your own account. Now we do have a group up here at the top that is new all-time highs and 52-week highs and 9, 6, and 3-month highs. That is perfectly valid and you can use those if you want. But down at the bottom, again, because we're kind of following along with my process, under the experts section, we do have a whole bunch of scans from me. And these will actually kind of tie into some of those lists that we looked at before. If you look through these, we've got new all-time highs in the S&P 1500. That's going to be the 500, the 400, and the 600 combined. So large, mid, and small cap S&P indexes making new all-time highs. We've got the same with new 52-week highs. We've actually got stocks within 10% of a new 52-week high there as well. And then we've got 9-month, 6-month, and 3-month highs as well, all on the S&P 1500. Now, I like to stay focused on the S&P 1500 because it gives me a clear universe of stocks to select from. Kind of narrows that universe. Instead of looking at every single stock out there in the market, I'm looking at a more condensed group of 1500. Now, if you can't find a single stock to buy out of a list of 1500, I think you got some questions for yourself. So narrowing that universe, making it a little bit more manageable for yourself, that's something that I recommend to a lot of traders, to a lot of investors. That's why I like to stay focused on the S&P 1500. So for your purposes today, again, since we're following along with how I discovered SMCI, we're going to use that new 6-month high. That's basically what that stock triggered before it made that monster 200% move off the breakout. So S&P 1500 names making new 6-month highs. You could just run that, but again, what we want to do is actually save this to our account and schedule it to run for us every single day automatically. So you're going to hit edit. Once you do that, it's going to pull that scan syntax, as we call it, over into the scan workbench. Now, it looks a little bit scary, but if you hit this reformat button, that's going to make it a lot cleaner. Going to kind of stack all that scan code right there for you. Now, if we dissect this for a quick second, I do want to take an opportunity here to kind of break down scanning. I know it can be intimidating to a lot of people, but if you just try to kind of read it almost as a sentence, it gets a little bit less scary. In this case, what we're looking for, again, remember, S&P 1500 stocks making new 6-month highs. So in this case, we're looking for type equals stocks. We want those to be in one of these 3 groups. The group is the S&P 500, or the group is the S&P 400, or the group is the S&P 600. Together, that's going to create the S&P 1500. So we're looking for stocks in those groups. And then what we're looking for is stocks where the daily high, so the high of the day, is greater than yesterday's daily high over the last 126 sessions. So basically, we want highs of the day today to be greater than any of the highs over the last 126 trading periods, which is about a 6-month period. So when you start to kind of break down the scan syntax, it does get a little less scary. But again, that sample scan library makes it easy for you to take on the power of scanning without having to really worry about any of this stuff yourself. So once you've pulled that in here, again, our second step is going to be to save that scan. So once we've pulled that in, again, we hit that edit button from the sample scan library. All we're going to do is hit save as. In this case, we're going to do S&P 1500 stocks making new 6-month highs. Let's say we save it like that. Save that scan to our account. So now we've completed steps 1 and steps 2. We've got our list created, again, that placeholder list. We've taken that scan from the sample scan library and we've saved that to our account. You can see that you now have that in the list. That's going to save that scan right to your account, to your StockCharts account. Next, we're going to schedule it. And if you look up at the top of this page, you hit that scheduled scans button. This is going to allow you to take any of the saved scans from your account and set it to run automatically for you in the background whenever you want. All you have to do basically is fill out this form. So we're going to open up this menu right up here at the top. Now in this case, we're looking at all of the scans from my account, so we've got a ton of these things. But if we go in here and we find our S&P 1500 stocks making new 6-month highs scan, we select that from the list. Yours will be a little easier to find because you probably won't have as many scans saved to your account. Select that one from that list though, and then all we have to do is kind of fill out when we want that scan to actually run. The default here is going to be at the open. I like to run my scans at the end of the day though. I like to run my scans at the close so we get kind of all of the data for today. So in this case, we're going to select US market close, and then we get to select our run days. Now, this is going to be set to be the weekdays. If you only wanted this to kick off once a week or only Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. If you're looking for cryptocurrencies, you do have the option to add in weekends there. But in this case, we're going to leave that as a daily scan during the week. So Monday through Friday, this scan is going to run at the close, looking for S&P 1500 stocks making new 6-month highs. Finally, we're going to select our action. This is where that chart list comes into play. So in here, we're going to save these results to a new chart list in our account, but that chart list is actually one that already exists. So in this case, we're going to be merging those results into an existing chart list. Now, if you wanted to create a new list every single time that this scan runs, you do have that option. If you wanted to overwrite an existing list every single time this scan runs, that would be the replace option. What I like to use though is the merge into existing chart list option. So we've created that placeholder list in our account. We've set that scan. Now when we schedule it, every day when that scan runs, the results that come back are going to be merged into that same list. That means that any new symbols will be added and any symbols that already exist will be ignored basically. So the nice thing about that is that when you let this scan run throughout the week, maybe you want to review it every day, but maybe you really only want to review it on Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays, something like that. That list will kind of be building up throughout the week. If you wait to review it until the weekend, you'll actually get a list of all the stocks in the S&P 1500 that made a new 6-month high that week at any point during that week because those results have been kind of building up in that list. So the merge option allows things to kind of pile up for you instead of overwriting them or having separate lists that you have to worry about. So I like that option. The only thing you have to remember to do is go in and clear out that list occasionally. So in this case, we're going to select merge, and then you do have one final option, which is whether or not you want the results emailed to you. You can turn that on, you can turn that off. It is kind of nice to get that report in your inbox, but if you're going to be good about jumping back over to Stock Charts and reviewing that list, it's nice and easy, so you might want to turn that off. Then you hit save, and that is it. You've completed these 3 steps. Again, you've created your chart list, you have saved your scan without having to write any scan code yourself, and finally, you've scheduled that to run for you automatically every day of the week and save those results into those lists. Now, down here, you can see all of the saved scheduled scans from my account. And this is going to line up with those lists that we were looking at before. Remember, I had all those lists that were named S&P 600 and 900 and ETFs and Dow and things like that. So these are all of those chart lists. These are the scans that are associated with them. And you can see that basically all of these are running during the week. They're running at the close. And for each one, I have them merging in general into the same list. So again, just to show you this one more time, when I jump over to my account at the end of a trading day or on the weekend, if I jump over to all of the chart lists in my account, I can simply cruise through all of these different chart lists and review those results. And I haven't had to run any of those scans. All I have to do if I want to see Dow stocks making new all-time highs, I just have to open the list. This is running for me automatically every single day. And it really is just a little bit of setup. You can save those scans from the sample scan library. You can schedule them to run, and you're going to get those lists of stocks every single day saved right to your account. This is a semi-automated stock picking system. Again, finding those strongest stocks out there in the market. If you're looking for stocks that are making new highs, by definition, they have to have some kind of strength. Stocks that are going up and making new all-time highs have to be strong on some level. So that's why I like to scan for new highs. Now, in this case, when you run these scans, a lot of the things that you're going to get back, if you're scanning for new all-time highs or 52-week highs, a lot of those are going to be steady trenders, like we can see here with Visa, something that has been steadily trending higher. But the key is that when we look at a chart like SMCI, if we jump back to that SMCI chart on the Sharp Charts workbench, for instance, what we can see is that for this thing to make new highs and make a big run up 200%, something like that, it had to first make one new high. So that's why I like to scan for new highs. I do it across a bunch of time frames, as you saw, 3, 6, 9 months, 52 weeks, and all-time highs as well. But by running those scans and seeing those names that are coming back, making new highs across those different time frames, you're able to catch things like SMCI before they make those crazy, crazy moves. Before this made a 200% run, it had to simply make a breakout to new highs. So this was one that actually initially made a new 3-month high, and then it made a new 6-month high, and then a new 9-month and 52-week high, and a new all-time high as well. On the way up, what SMCI was doing to print a 200% gain like this was breaking out to new highs, making those new highs consistently. So that's why I like to keep my scans focused on the stocks that are making those new highs. Again, this is the system that I used to find SMCI before it printed that 200% gain. All I was looking for was stocks in the S&P 1500 making new highs across those different time frames. And because I've scheduled those scans to run for me automatically and save those results into my account, all I have to do is sit down at the end of a trading day, click through some charts, have fun looking for the ones that are set up the best, and then you can find these stocks before they make those moves. So hopefully you've had some fun with me on the show today, seeing some of these tools in action, seeing sort of my stock picking, stock discovery system in action. Again, I found SMCI before it made that 200% move thanks to these 3 simple steps. Create that chart list, save those scans, and then schedule them to run automatically for you in the background. All that leaves is a little bit of chart review for you. You just got to sit down and have some fun reviewing those names that have come back on those scans. One other great thing about this too is that if you do it over time for a long period of time, you really do see some interesting ebbs and flows throughout the market. When we see an incredibly bullish environment, you'll see lots and lots of names coming back for those new high scans. When we see a weaker environment, like in 2022, you'll notice that your scheduled scans results get a lot smaller. You'll have fewer and fewer stocks to review. So actually, there's a very, very interesting kind of personal breadth index approach to this. Running these scheduled scans every day and reviewing those results lets you sort of see the strength or weakness that's out there in the market simply by the number of results that are coming back. It's a very, very interesting way to follow different corners of the market. You'll see sectors that are working. You'll see industries that are working. You'll see numbers that are or are not coming back, all of that stuff as part of this process. So a great way to follow the market kind of from the bottom up, in addition to being a great way to find names like SMCI before they take off. So if all of these tools interest you, if you want to do things like this, find those names before they rocket higher. Again, all of these are tools that are available on the Stock Charts website. So as long as you're a Stock Charts member, you can take advantage of exactly this same kind of thing. And if you ever have questions about setting any of this up for your own account, our support team is obviously there, ready to help answer your questions and set you up with these kinds of tools. So I want to thank you again for joining me on the show today. It's been a lot of fun to sit down with you, talk a little bit about my process, share some of the tools that I use out there in the markets as well and on the Stock Charts platform. Again, my name is Grayson Rose, author of Trading for Dummies and Director of Operations here at Stock Charts. We'll be back with you next week for another edition of Stock Charts in Focus. Until then, remember, subscribe to the channel if you got some good stuff out of this video. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn the notifications on as well. That really helps us out. Give this video a like. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you're scanning for too. I'd love to hear what's on your saved scan list, what's on your scheduled scan list, what you are looking for out there in the markets. You might not be looking for new highs. You might be looking for technical indicator crossovers or volume patterns, maybe relative strength, one of the things that you can do now with the scan engine. Who knows? Let me know down in the comments below. What are you scanning for? Until the next time, though, I will see you soon. But until that next show, chart on, my friends.